A successful businessman, dressed in a sharp suit, briskly walked down a busy city street. He had just finalized a major deal that would secure his wealth for years to come. His mind wandered as he thought about the upcoming expansion of his empire, his growing bank accounts, and the impressive social circles he was now part of. As he walked, he passed an elderly man sitting on the sidewalk. The man was dressed in tattered clothes, his face lined with age and hardship, but there was a calmness in his eyes, and his presence seemed to have an unusual peace about it. The beggar's voice broke through his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir, would you be willing to spare a coin? It would help me greatly today." The businessman, annoyed by the interruption, quickly waved his hand dismissively. "Get a job, old man. Stop sitting here begging." Without a second glance, he hurried off to his next meeting. Weeks passed, and the businessman's life continued as it always had, full of meetings, deals, and financial success. But soon, things began to take a turn. His investments faltered. He made a series of poor decisions. His business partners turned against him, and suddenly, the empire he had built crumbled before his eyes. One day, he found himself standing at the edge of financial ruin. He had lost everything: his company, his wealth, his influence. Struggling to make ends meet, the businessman was forced to sell his possessions and take a job he had once considered beneath him. But it wasn't enough. His savings ran out, and soon he was left with nothing. The once powerful businessman found himself homeless, standing on the very same street where he had passed by the beggar months ago. His suit was now tattered, and he had no place to go. Desperation began to settle in as he wandered the streets, searching for shelter and food. It was on a cold evening, as the businessman sat on the curb in his worn clothes, that he saw the beggar again. The old man sat in the same spot, calm as ever, his cup at his feet. The businessman approached him slowly, feeling a mixture of shame and disbelief. The beggar looked up and recognized him immediately. His eyes softened with compassion, and he gestured for the businessman to sit beside him. "Is everything all right, sir?" the beggar asked, his voice gentle yet wise. The businessman couldn't contain himself. Tears welled up in his eyes as he slumped down beside the beggar. "I've lost everything. My company, my wealth. I have nothing left. I thought I had it all, but now I have nothing." The beggar, without judgment, simply nodded. Life has a way of teaching us lessons we never expect. Sometimes, losing everything helps us understand what we really need. The businessman looked at the beggar in disbelief. "But I treated you badly. I dismissed you when you asked for my help. And now here I am, with nothing." The beggar smiled softly. "We all face struggles, my friend. But it's not about what we lose. It's about what we choose to give. You see, wealth isn't in what you have, it's in what you're willing to share. No matter how much or how little you possess, it's the love, kindness, and generosity you show that defines your true wealth." The businessman hung his head, absorbing the words. It was then that the beggar did something unexpected. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a single, old coin. He placed it into the businessman's hands. "I can't give you much," the beggar said, his voice gentle but firm. "But I can spare this. It may be a small gesture, but it's all I have. Take it, and remember this. True wealth is not measured by what you hold in your hand, but by what you give with your heart." The businessman stared at the coin, his eyes filled with tears. He had nothing left, and yet this beggar, who had even less, was willing to share what little he had. From that day forward, the businessman began to change. With no money, no business, and no possessions, he started to help others just as the beggar had helped him. Whether it was offering a kind word, sharing a meal, or giving his time to someone in need. He learned that true wealth comes from giving, not accumulating. Years later, the businessman was no longer homeless, but he was a changed man. He had found his purpose in life, helping others, sharing his knowledge, and living a life of meaning. The coin the beggar had given him became a symbol of the lesson he had learned. Wealth is not what you have, it's what you give. The businessman never forgot the beggar who had shown him the true meaning of wealth, and he made it his life's work to spread that wisdom to others. True wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by what you're willing to give. Even the smallest act of kindness, even from those with the least, can have the greatest impact. The most valuable thing you can offer is your heart, not your possessions.